What's up? Welcome back to the Asymmetrical Athlete YouTube page. So today, let's talk about Stop the Bleed. So talking about Stop the Bleeding is not just for firefights, for gunshot wounds, for war, not just for trauma. It's for everyday use, right? At any point in time, somebody can fall down, they can break a leg, get a compound fracture, come across a car wreck. I mean, there is a whole bunch of things that can happen in life. And in life, you're probably going to use this stuff a hell of a lot more than you're going to use this stuff, right? So let's talk about it. When we say stop the bleed, we mean just that. And we're trying to stop it from just about anywhere in the body, right? Now, one of the best things that we can use to stopping the bleed is a tourniquet. Okay, here I have basically 5 different kinds of tourniquets. I have a cat tourniquet, which is essentially the gold standard, right? Great tourniquet, been around for quite a while, right? We have the soft T, right, which stands for Special Operational Forces Tourniquet. So you know it's cool if it has a soft in there. Boom, right there. Yeah, so this was manufactured last year. Okay, another great tourniquet. We have a rat's tourniquet that sometimes gets a bad rap. The dudes who invented it, or the dude who invented it, was a special forces medic, and he invented it out of necessity. This can be used on kids and dogs as well. If you know how to use it and you understand that you need more than just one wrap, then it works. I'm not saying it's the best thing out there, but it does work. The first time TCCC did a study on it, they also said it worked. I haven't read any of the latest studies, but I know the first one they said it worked. And then last but not least, we have the SWAT T. Okay, SWAT T tourniquet. It is like an inner tube, and if you can see it, it's like an inner tube, and then it has stuff on there that tells you how far to stretch it. This one's by far the hardest to put on yourself if you're doing self aid. If you're doing buddy aid, putting on somebody else, it's not that bad, but on yourself, kind of sucks, right? So again, these are the gold standard of stopping the bleed. But where can we put these? Well, we cannot put them on your head or the neck or the chest or the belly or your pelvic area, right? These are only good for arms and legs, okay? However, they are really, really good for arms and legs. Even if you come across somebody who, their arm got severed off or their leg got severed off in a car wreck, you can still slap one of these on. Even if you don't see they're bleeding right away, you can still put one of these on just in case. There's a word for that where they're like in trauma and it stops bleeding and they start bleeding later. I can't remember what the word is, but just in case, right? So how do we use one of these? Well, the thing I learned when I was a cop is I took for granted that everybody knew how to use this, because in my previous lives in the military and in contracting, everybody did know how to use one of these, literally everybody. So when I became a cop and I found multiple people not knowing how to use this, it made me very worried, because you are literally the first responder in almost every occasion. Police get there first, and if you don't know how to use one of these, you could possibly, not be able to save somebody's life, especially when they're so easy to use, right? When I was a cop, because I was not post certified, I could not give an actual class to use these. And I tried getting a class set up for about a year, and it never came to fruition. And that really, really kind of irked me a little bit. But whatever, right? Okay, so tourniquet. When we're doing self aid, the tail always on the inside. Why? So we can fucking grab it. Duh. Okay. So there is two methods of putting these on. First method is 4 inches above the wound, not on a joint. If it's on a joint, you got to go above the joint, right? Wrist or elbow or ankle or knee. Why 4 inches? Because the that's where they said, like, if you have a wound here, the vein can kind of go up, suck up in your arm. So you're gonna go. We always use 4 fingers. Is about 4 inches. 4 inches above the wound. Now, what they learned in Iraq and Afghanistan is that little guy, the little vein dude, can actually suck up a lot further in your arm. And because we don't know how many injuries you have, especially like in a blast or like a car wreck, we said high or die. Real super easy. If you do that here in the States, you're not going to get sued for it, right? So high or die. So you go as high as you can on the extremity, be it a leg or an arm. You take this tail here and you crank the sumbitch down as hard as you can. This is very important because the more and harder you crank this down, the less you have to turn this, okay? This here is called a windlass. I don't know if can you see that with my shirt? This is called a windlass. And basically you keep turning this until the blood stops. That's correct. So you keep turning it until the blood stops. And it's got these little fingers you go into. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing off. It'll be easier. So you take this windlass and you keep turning it, and you put it into these little lock things right here. Blook, right there. Keep turning it until the blood stops. Now, when it's in there, right, this one has this little triangle piece, and you put that right over the end. And that's going to help that just in case this comes out, it won't get loose. The cat tourniquet has something similar. You have the windlass and you have the little hook thing. You hook it right in there, and then you have this Velcro, and the Velcro goes over. So that way it can't come out as well. Okay? Easy. Easy, easy. All right. So the tourniquet is the best way to stop the bleed on an arm or a leg. I mean, it's the best. What can I say? All right. However, maybe you don't get hurt on an arm or a leg, right? Maybe you get hurt in your shoulder, or in your pelvis, or in your belly, or in your chest. Okay. In the chest area, anywhere here where your lungs are, you're not going to pack that wound because your lungs are in there. You're going to use a chest seal. Okay. What a chest seal is, it is a really sticky band-aid that has vents in it so the blood can get out, but nothing can get in. Real super easy to the point, right? Usually if somebody gets shot and they have a bullet hole in the front, make sure you check in the back just in case. All right. That's why there's two of them. If not, you can also use these on the belly area if need be. Okay. So chest seals. Again, these are all, you can make these on your own. If you have a piece of plastic and some really good tape, you can tape up 3 sides, leave one side open or leave an area open. That way the air and the blood can get out. Pretty easy. Band-Aids, don't use them. Unless it's like obviously like a little wound, but we're talking about like a big gaping wound here. All right. Let's see what else we got. Okay, in the pelvic area, right? You can pack that, but if they're in a car wreck and their pelvis is broken, you don't want to move them without securing that first. Now, if paramedics are on scene, they have like a contraption to do this, but let's just pretend car's on fire. If you don't pull dude out, he's gonna burn to death. Okay, paramedics are not there yet. Here is his pelvic area. You're gonna want to take something like a coat, something like that, not a belt, something a little bit bigger and wider and softer. Okay, and you're gonna gently wrap that around his pelvic area like this. Okay, you're not going to do it super, super tight so it squeezes it, and you're not going to leave it loose so it falls apart. All you want it is so those bones don't start moving around in there, poking around and shit. Okay. Yeah. So, if he has like a puncture in there, then we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. In the belly area, you do not pack wounds in the belly area. Now, back in the day when I was taught, they told us that we could do that. I just confirmed it today with two of my friends. One is a trauma surgeon. One was a former 18 Delta and then a trauma surgeon. The other one is a 25, 27-year long combat medic. Talked to them today. Both of them said do not pack belly. Why? Because a lot of the organs inside your belly, even though they have a lot of capillaries and stuff, they don't bleed as much, and they can seal themselves pretty quickly. Another thing is if you are bleeding a lot, right? You can lose 6 pints of blood in your belly, and if you start poking all this stuff in there, then you can just cause a lot more damage, and you can possibly cause infection. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So for belly trauma, right? What we're gonna do is, let's say this is a wound. We got a big wound right here. By the way, this is just a roast that I wrapped in saran wrap that we're gonna eat later this week. And here I am digging my fingers in it. It's kind of gross, but I just wrapped it there and I took a knife and cut it. Right, so it's kind of easy to get some training in, if you will. You're just gonna take and you're gonna make a pressure dressing. So here's the hole. It's coming out. You're gonna take this. You're gonna apply it on top of that. Okay. Now on the belly, obviously you can't squeeze it down too hard, right? If you've ever had like a super tight belt, it's very uncomfortable. It sucks a lot. You can't do anything. So you're not going to do that to the belly. You're going to want to wrap it up, okay, with whatever you have, a shirt, whatever it may be, some tape. If you have tape, tape it up. But that's about all you can do is do a pressure dressing. And then they can keep pressure on it, or if you have to, you can keep pressure on it until paramedics arrive, okay? Okay, that's belly. We got chest, arms and legs, a tourniquet. All right, so let's go into packing the wound. All right, so let's say you get shot in like the shoulder area. Okay, you can't apply a tourniquet, but it's not in the lung area, so you can pack it, right? Or let's say you get something on your arm or leg and you don't have a tourniquet available, right? So what can you do? Well, let's say we got stabbed in the leg and we got a big, nice stab wound here. You're just going to pack the tourniquet. All that is, it's very simple. If you have hemostatic gauze, use that. If you do not have hemostatic gauze, it's okay. Any clean gauze will work. Almost all first aid kits have gauze, or they should. So you should have some in there, right? Hemostatic gauze is expensive, and I'll use it if I have to, but I'm not going to use it on this piece of roast, right? So this is gauze that I pulled out of a med kit, and I was just playing around with it earlier. So all you do, it's real simple. You take this and you shove it in there, right? And you just keep shoving it in there, okay? Now, you see how much is going into this piece of roast, okay? I put the whole thing in there. See that? All of that went in there, okay? So a lot more is going to go into the hole than you originally may think, all right? Now, let's say you shove all this in there, okay? Now what? You just look at it? No. What you're going to do is you're going to do a pressure dressing, right? So at this point in time, for this, make sure you use like a clean gauze. Try to avoid using your shirt or anything like that because again, it's going inside the person. So you don't want to infect them with any of your grossness. So if you have another piece of gauze, you can throw that right on top, and then you can take this, you can wrap it around, right? And you're just going to tie it overhand knot right on top, and that's going to be the pressure. It's going to keep pressure on the wound, right? And you can manually apply pressure as well until paramedics arrive, right? Super easy. Pressure dressings are really easy. Packing wound is super easy. None of this stuff is super complicated, right? We are not going to go over needle decomps or crikes, anything like that. We're not doing any stuff like that. This is day one, real simple. You teach brand new privates this stuff, so I know that most adults can figure this out, okay? Now, a lot of this stuff that I have, right, like this emergency trauma dressing or this Israeli bandage, is all by North American Rescue. Why? Because they're a great company and they make really good shit, okay? It's not the only people out there that make it, obviously, but you can get two of these Estrel gauzes for like $10, okay? They're essentially they're just gauze that you could buy at Walmart. I don't even think this is. No, so this is just regular gauze, okay? This is not hemostatic or nothing like that. It's not combat gauze. This is just regular gauze. And they just shrink wrap it, right? So you could essentially, if you have one of those shrink wrap machines that you put like your meat or beef jerky or whatever in, you can go to Walmart, buy some gauze, and do that yourself. Bam. Make sure it's clean. Wash your fucking hands, Chris. Um, and that's really about it. It's just that easy for packing a wound, right? So let's pretend that we don't have all this cool guy stuff, right? We don't even have gauze because we're a fucking worthless piece of shit and we don't keep this on us, okay? So what do? Well, there's a couple things. One, you can, if absolutely an emergency, take your shirt off, bundle it up, and apply pressure, right? It may work, it may not work. Kind of sucks, right? In the Boston bombing, what they found was a lot of people went to help, and it was awesome. And a lot of those people did not have tourniquets on them because they're regular people and they don't think like me and they don't have a med kit on. So they made improvised tourniquets, and they made them with like belts and shoestrings and things like that. And the shitty part is it didn't work. No, those dudes were helping out, and you can't fault them for that because that was awesome. But unfortunately, it didn't work. And when they got back to the ER, they found out they didn't work, right? But good to those people for trying. Okay, so you can always make an improvised tourniquet. Now, this is a little thin because you want 2 to 4 inches of inclusion or squeezing, 2 to 4 inches of squeezing, right? You could take something like this, a Sharpie, and you can tie this on here, right? And you use this as a windlass. Now, Sharpies are pretty tough, right? They're pretty strong. So you can use this, you can squeeze it up, and then you use the tails, and you wrap the tails up like this, okay? And then those are your windlass, so they can't get away, all right? So they can't come undone, okay? Now, again, you want 2 to 4 inches of inclusion, so something like this wouldn't work. However, if you had a triangular bandage, something like that was a little bit wider, at least 2 inches wide, then you could use it, and it would work great, right? But again, if you want to make something like this, do not use your belt. Your belt does not work. Don't use a fucking phone cord or anything like a plug-in cord, nothing like that. You got to use something that's wide enough to get 2 to 4 inches is the standard. Okay, so improvised tourniquet. And if you have any questions about that, drop them down below. I got taught this back in the 90s, and I've done it for 20 some odd years. So I'm not a doctor. I played one in a home video once, but I'm not one. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I've had a lot of real world experience. There's a lot of people that make these videos that don't have any actual real world experience because, let's face it, if you're a paramedic, you get taught all this stuff, but you have everything in the world right there in your bag, on your ambulance, whatever, right? So you can do a King's Airway. You don't have to use a nasal pharyngeal, right? So you don't have to take this tube and stick it up somebody's nose. Why? Because you have a King's Airway and you just shove it down there and just make sure you get it in the right hole. Easy things like that, right? The shitty part is, as a soldier, as a contractor, even as a cop, we didn't have a lot of that stuff. We had something similar to this in our car, and a lot of cops didn't even know how to use it, and it's fucking sad. So I would rather put out free information for everybody to use. There's people, this is no shit. I just saw an ad. People are charging $130 to learn this. And it's, 20-minute long YouTube video. So, yeah, whatever, right? Dude's got to make money. Okay, so first thing you do when you come up to somebody that's been in a car wreck or been shot or whatever, the patient, first thing you do is you're going to do a head-to-toe assessment, right? You're going to basically, without going over the cool fucking acronyms and all that bullshit, you're gonna do a head-to-toe assessment. What the fuck is wrong with them? Okay. Oh, there's a bone sticking out. That's a clue, right? Oh, their fucking neck sideways. That's a clue. Oh, their arm's missing. That's another clue, right? You're just gonna do a head-to-toe assessment, right? If they have holes in the front, you got to check and see if they have holes in the back. Okay. A good technique to do this is to take your fucking tiger claw and you're gonna rake, not hard. You're gonna rake down their body. Why? Because if you go like this, you may miss. Right? If you're patting them down, you may miss this. If you rake it in there, oh, look, my finger's in there. Oh, that's not right. That's for you porn right there. Okay, but that's what you're gonna do. Okay, so the raking of the fingers, that is going to help you out, right? If you do have gloves, obviously use them. Dudes are gross nowadays, so use them. If you do have gloves, try not to use the black ones because the blood mixes in with black real easily, and you may not be able to see it. So tan, white, or blue, or purple, those are kind of the best ones to use for looking for blood. All right. If you have to, let's say you see dude's bleeding, but he's got pants on, um, try not to use a knife, even though I know you're a badass knife fighter, but try not to use it, right? Because let's say you are like, and then you go, bloop, and then you stab him. Well, I mean, that's not cool, right? You don't want to stab dude. So try not to use a knife. Unless you have one of those gutting knives, then that's better. Um, Scissors always work, right? These are the kind, if you remember the commercials back in the day, they cut a penny in half. It's true, they will cut a penny in half, but who gives a shit because you're using the cut close, right? Um, and when you're doing that, like, don't be an asshole. Expose as little as possible so that the patient is not, even though you're trying to save their life, you're not trying to like fucking expose them and have their genitalia sticking out for the whole world to see. That's just an asshole move. Don't do it unless you absolutely have to. Okay. Um, and then you're going to go right into your work, right? You're going to start. You're going to look for work and you're going to do work. Okay. Headed to assessment. Your massive bleeding, right? Your airway. Are they breathing? Okay. Circulation. Do they have cap refill? You know, all that stuff, right? And you're going to go down and you're going to look for all that stuff. Okay. If they're unconscious, then it's kind of hard. You know, it might be kind of hard to tell what's wrong with them. Another thing is in the civilian world, if they're in a car, try not to move them out of the car unless you have to, i.e., the car's on fire. If they got thrown out of the car, try not to move them on the ground. If you absolutely have to move them, be very careful of their C spine, right? Hold their head, okay, and roll them, right? Don't fucking grab their head and break it, okay? Be careful of their back, all that stuff. Even though you're a good Samaritan and you're trying to do things, shit can happen, and you don't want to hurt or injure the person any more than you absolutely have to, right? And if you have to drag them back, then by all means do it. But goddamn, do it in the most gentle, easiest way. Pretend like that's your grandma and you're trying to, move her out of the way, right? Um, there's a lot of things that a lot of people shouldn't do. One is an airway needle decomp, a needle decompression. If you don't know how to do it, then there's no reason to do it, right? If you don't know what to look for, if you're just going to stick somebody in their chest for no reason, then that's fucking stupid. You have to actually know what to look for and see the signs, the throat off to the side, the collapse lung, all that bullshit. Um, that way, if you see the signs, you can actually use this. Like a crike or a trach, whatever it's called, I can't remember, where you cut their throat open and like you see it in the movies, they put a pen in there and like, right? Again, if you don't know how to use that, then don't do it, okay? Because it's weird because you'd think you cut it like that, but you actually cut it. Strange. Anyway, um, one thing I keep on me is a little pen light. Back in 2013, 12, some shit like that. Um, I went to EMTB school. Uh, the shitty part is I went there and I was expecting a lot more. What I received or what I found out was that they do not teach even as much as we teach our privates in the Army, which is fucking horrible. They are really super concerned with your blood pressure because I think it's because they deal with a lot of elderly people and a lot of people that are calling because they're old and hurt, not because they have a broken leg or a gunshot wound, right? But you can look at somebody's eyes with a little light, a little pen light. You can tell, if they've had head injuries and things like that. Nasal pharyngeal, again, if you don't know how to do something like this, don't do it. It causes harm. This is a breathe valve, right? So CPR, everybody should be certified in CPR. If you're not, go get certified. CPR is super easy to learn and you can save somebody's life. Now, while we don't really teach breathing anymore, even anyway, last time I went, it's just compressions. If you have to do breaths, those people can throw up on you when they come to. So having something like this is a lifesaver sometimes because then that'll cause you to throw up. It'll be a whole chain reaction of throwing up. Anyways, I think that is about it. So all this stuff here, this is something that is never not good, that never goes away. Knowing how to put a pressure dressing and a tourniquet on to save somebody's life is always a great thing. You can learn this at 10 years old, and you can learn this at 60 years old. It doesn't matter. This is the information that people are charging $120, $130 to get, and they shouldn't be. Period. I mean, this stuff is very easy to do. Like I said, I took a roast that we're going to have for dinner this week, and I took a knife and I cut into it, and I practiced packing it, and that's all it is. So if you've got any questions, drop them below. Key up on all this stuff. If you want to know where to order stuff, buy stuff, let me know. If you want to know shortcuts, how to get stuff, so it's not as expensive, let me know, and I will answer all your questions. And always ask yourself, are you an asset or a liability? I know what you're thinking. You're like, hey, didn't he wear that shirt last week? Yes, he did. However, last week's video was filmed about 2 hours ago, and then I went to the gym. So this week's video, this shirt is soaking wet and it smells like shit. That's the difference.